All right, guys, welcome back to the Discovering Eden podcast. My name is Brandon,
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Marty.
and this time we're talking about Seraphim. And, well, what's the first thing you think of when you think of a seraph?
Typically an angel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Multi-winged.
yeah.
You know,
And that's
Attendant,
typically my thought as well,
Mhm.
especially when, and obviously we think of the biblical account of it.
Yep.
But, like, in culture, I think of, like, anime, and what's a seraph like? It's almost like a pixie or like different things like elemental, like an elemental pixie of like light,
Yeah.
which kind of is around the same thing ish.
Yeah.
But anyway, but before we get into all that discussion about Seraphim, we'll get into prayer, and then we'll get into the bumper, and then we'll get into it. So let's get it.
Dear Lord, we just thank you for this time to gather together to nerd out on these different topics. As we dive into this conversation about Seraphim, I just pray that you guide this conversation as we dive into different biblical accounts, different verses, and just all the different research that's been done over the last week. And anything that's not from you, Lord, that it falls to the ground and is forgotten. I just pray that you bless us as we engage in this, and that anyone who needs to hear this conversation will hear it. Amen.
Oh, man. Bumper. Go. All right. We're just coming back talking about puffy mics and eating the mic, having the mic right here, because for some reason this microphone, well, it's great and all, but it doesn't pick up our voices all that clearly, so it's not as loud as the intro video that we always have, which is awesome, but not awesome at the same time.
So we just need to start yelling.
Oh!
Gonna turn into an episode of Dragon Ball.
No, you just need ASMR. Just
Oh no!
I don't even know if that came through.
We'll find out when it gets posted. Just have 2 seconds of uncomfortable sound effects.
Skip a bag of chips. Crunch. In the middle of a conversation. Crunch. What were you saying? Crunch. Anyway, we need to actually talk about the topic. So, Seraph. Now, I only knew of the one instance of where Seraphim actually pops up in scripture, which is Isaiah 6.
Mhm.
I didn't realize there was more, and this is where the word study and different things like that for like the Hebrew of seraph and the base words and everything like that comes into play. Because I wouldn't have known the other context had it not been from researching kind of the word study. And this is one of the studies that I've been doing more of recently, in terms of different words and studies that I've been doing on a personal level. So applying it here. And honestly, we probably could have applied the word study for multiple things that we've already discussed. And maybe we look at it going back. Like, what about behemoth? Does that appear more than just behemoth itself? Or is behemoth? And that's it. It's different things like that that kind of spark inspiration or ideas or interests in other studies. So Seraphim here, and I'm actually gonna go and you'll see the site that I used. It's from Bible Hub, which is looking at the different Hebrew root words of seraph, specifically the seraph that's used in Seraphim in Isaiah 6. So I'm gonna show you guys this. I think this is the thing. There you go. All right. So this is it. So there's multiple different things here. It gives you a lexicon, so it gives you the summary of what it is. It gives you the definition of it, the concordance that you'll see in different aspects, and then just using it in situ with a different Hebrew that is used in these different contexts, and a little bit of history even of where it came from or originated, or where they think some of these aspects or words could have been derived from. So it's a really interesting tool, really fascinating, and really fascinating to really dive into. And you'll see with some of these as well, as I'll go back and forth between some of them. So as we look at Seraph in this instance, I guess I'll just scroll down because I have it on here, but might as well just scroll down to it. So from the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, means a fiery serpent or a seraph. So and this is from the root word seraph, which is the same spelling, but slightly different in the Hebrew, which goes with burning. So in this particular instance, they say figuratively, and then poisonous as a different version of that, and serpent. Specifically, a seraph or symbolical creature from their copper color, which goes again to one of the other instances of where it's used. Fiery serpent, seraph. So it can also mean the angelic being, which is the seraph that we are accustomed to knowing, which is more of the seraphim that we see in Isaiah 6. But it's also the word for fiery serpent, which is interesting.
Yep.
And something that you find out looking at different translations is that fiery serpent could also mean like venomous snake. In some, like NIV will say venomous snake, but in the NASB, ESV, King James, other different translations like that will say fiery serpent, which I thought it was just the King James that did. So, okay, I'm listening. And when you think of fiery serpent, what do you think of? Well, you think of a dragon.
Yeah. So this fits right in.
So it's a dragon, right? Well, not quite. Especially when it says the figurative fire aspect with the venomous.
Yeah.
But just like dragons, well, the fire wasn't necessarily a guaranteed thing. It was more often than not poison, venom. So it still kind of fits that dragon mold. But, and the fact that they fly with some of the other things. Some of the translations say darting, some say flying. So there's another thing. So is it a dragon? Who knows? Yeah. Or is it just a flying snake?
Right.
Which some people, maybe you classify that as a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, why not both?
Quetzalcoatl. Tomato.
Right.
So let's go into some of these other translations where it has this word seraph. So does somebody want to bring up Numbers 21?
Yeah, I got that. So
okay.
Numbers 21, 6 through 8. Or 6 and
then
8.
What translation are you using?
This is the ESV.
ESV.
So verse 6 says, Then the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, so that many people of Israel died. And then down in verse 8 it says, And the Lord said to Moses, Make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten when he sees it shall live.
So, interesting. And keep in mind where this is in the context of the grand story. So this is basically the Exodus. Happens in the book of Numbers, but it's after the Exodus.
Yeah, they're out in the wilderness.
Yeah. So,
And I'll do Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
8:15. And this is the NIV version. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land. With its venomous snakes and scorpions, he brought you water out of a hard rock.
Yeah. So in that instance, again, using that venomous snakes. And then Marty, do you want to go to Isaiah 14 in a not NIV?
Let's stick with the ESV.
Okay.
Verse 29, right?
Yes.
Rejoice not, O Philistia, all of you, that the rod that struck you is broken. For from the serpent's root will come forth an adder, and its fruit will be a flying fiery serpent.
So flying.
Yeah, flying and fiery.
And then, do you want to go to Isaiah 30, Jonathan? And you can stick with the NIV here.
Okay.
Just to show the difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Isaiah 30, verse 6. A prophecy concerning the animals of, how do you say that? Negev?
Negev.
Negev.
Yeah.
Through a land of hardship and distress, of lions and lionesses, of adders and darting snakes, the envoys carry their riches on donkeys' backs, their treasures on the humps of camels, to that unprofitable nation.
So, darting snakes there.
Yeah.
Is the seraph. Which in other things would say flying serpents.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting aspect of A, fire, and B, serpent.
Mm-hmm.
Now serpent can mean snake because they are serpentine. Can also apply to dragon as well, because serpent is also synonymous with dragon. What is it exactly? Well, it's something with wings, as we gather, and it's called the serpent. So take that for what you will. Whether that's a snake, which I don't really know of any flying snakes,
Right.
Or a dragon. They bit people and they died in the wilderness because of them. So, and when you think of the wasteland, dinosaurs, different things like that, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but I'm taking it in context of what we're given. And especially looking at the root word, it's interesting that serpent appears here every single time.
Yeah.
That seraph in these instances are used. Then the other common thing through most of it is fire, or at least burnished bronze, or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And something we even see in scripture, and I'm going to actually go back. So you've been looking at that long enough, I think. look at our lovely faces, our lovely mugs. So what is an attribute that's often described of God or divine? It's the element of fire.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Holy Spirit, tongues
Yeah.
of fire. Yeah.
And often something that's associated with some angels or different, basically the presence of God. If the presence of God is within something, it's often described in terms of fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, even Moses first met God at the burning bush.
At the burning bush, which oddly enough, seraph is not used there because, well, a bush isn't a snake.
Right.
But if you squint really hard,
you see the smoke and it makes clouds and you can maybe see a snake there.
It's a serpentine smoke trail.
So, and not even the other base word, which I said I would go back to the other, but it means to burn or burning. Which oddly enough is not used in the burning bush. But that's because seraphs are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Especially like the burn aspect of it. because the burn that's being talked about here is almost more of divine nature in Seraphim. But at the same time, it's not, because that also relates to the burning of, well, the dragons or the serpents.
Yeah.
The serpents is a proper way of saying it, because dragons don't exist. But yeah, you kind of talked about Pentecost already. The tongues of fire and everything came down like a fire.
Yep.
Or you think of the burning of the offerings, like at Mount Carmel, with God just engulfed it in flame and incinerated it.
Yep.
Everything comes with fire. There's a huge emphasis of fire. So having that motif of fire in it, whether that, like, in this instance, in the NIV, it'll say it's venomous serpents, like, or venomous snakes, I should say. Which it kind of takes away from what the base root of the word is, which is to burn. Now, I mean, in that way, it's like, it's burning because, you're poisoned and you have boils on your skin, which boil is another term of, well, it's hot. Like, it hurts. It's excruciating pain because it's like, it's stinging. It burns.
Yeah.
But like burning in the sense of like faith, like you're on fire for Jesus or you're on fire for God.
Yeah.
Like you hear that kind of terminology and language.
Well, and even, some of the descriptions, used throughout the Bible are God is an all-consuming fire. He is the refiner's fire, stuff like that. Even when the disciples walked with Jesus on the road to Emmaus and they didn't realize it was him, afterwards, what did they say? Oh, weren't our hearts on fire?
Yeah. So, and it really ties into this like seraph aspect. Now, again, let's think of what is a seraph. Like, obviously we think of it, oh, it's like an angel, but it's not an angel.
Yeah.
What is it? Like, now we're looking at this and now it says it's a fiery serpent. What? Well, that's not what I thought it was.
Right.
What is it? Yet they have dragon in the New Testament and Revelation, but then that's not a good dragon. And this is like an angel or some sort of angelic being in the order of angels, and yet it's a good thing, but then the dragon isn't. And what?
Yeah.
Huh? What?
Well, it even seems like with the Seraphim, looking at numbers specifically, it can go either way.
Yeah.
The first in verse 6, it's these seraph or these fiery serpents went out and bit the people. Clearly that was a bad thing. Yeah, God told Moses, make the bronze serpent after the fiery serpents. So here's a good thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. And I've been kind of putting off Isaiah 6 for a little bit because it's a little bit different.
Just a little.
But I wanted to briefly mention, and this will tie back into Leviathan, actually. So going back to Isaiah 36, well, not 36, 30, verse 6. Do you want to bring that back up?
Yeah.
Or if you have it already, I don't.
30 verse 6, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I still have it. Read it again?
Yeah, read it again, and then we'll focus on the latter part of it.
So, a prophecy concerning the animals of Negev. Through a land of hardship and distress, of lions and lionesses, of adders and darting snakes, the envoys carry their riches on donkeys' backs, their treasures on the humps of camels to that unprofitable nation.
Okay. So, unprofitable nation is a different term for something else in a different translation. Do you want to look up what it is in the ESV?
Sure. What was it again? Isaiah 30?
30 verse 6. Probably should have checked to see if it said, if it said it in that one.
So, ESV says to a people that cannot profit them. That's how that ends.
Okay.
It's the same.
You
Verse 7 mentions.
Is it verse 7 that has it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was after.
So verse 7 says, Egypt's help is worthless and empty, therefore I have called her Rahab, who sits still.
Okay, yeah, it was 7. Rahab. Rahab here is the same Rahab that is mentioned alongside Leviathan in other places, such as Isaiah 51:9, Psalm 89:10, Job 26:12, and Job 9:13. Which, I mean, it's an observation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of mentioned alongside of it. Does it mean anything? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it means something. Obviously, it's in the Bible, but but I think, especially since it's in the book of Isaiah, and you'll see this a lot in the book of Isaiah, it uses a lot of references to a lot of different gods and goddesses within it because of the context that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
It's within the land of Canaan. It's mentioning all these, like, whether it's Canaanite myth, whether it's Egyptian myth, whether it's different things. You see a lot of these aspects of the book of Isaiah, like referencing these gods and goddesses that people would have known at the time because they're surrounded by them.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it's showing like Isaiah's telling of an underlying God that's greater than all of it. But uses the language of these other gods and goddesses so that people may understand or grasp who God is. Because what is the Bible really after? Like, what's the point of the Bible?
Yeah, I mean, it's all pointing back to the one true God, no matter what the context, worldwide context is. Even Paul talks, quotes Greek philosophers a lot, and because he's in that context.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, sure, we might think, like, on a base level, oh, so the Bible follows the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main characters of the story. No, the main character of the story is God.
Right.
God is.
Yeah, it's his
the point.
Story.
It's his story. It's called history.
Yeah, it's
his story. There you go.
Just throw a little cliche out there. Whatever.
Well, yeah. So that's kind of the book of Isaiah. So you'll see a lot of these, and this is something I've kind of learned as I've been studying myself, is you'll see these myths and legends and other things that are being mentioned in here that blow right over your head if you're not paying attention. Because we're outside of the context. It wasn't written to us. I mean, it's written for us, but it's not written to us.
Right.
It's written to the people of that context.
Right.
We're not in that context anymore. It's still for us because there's still truth and everything behind it.
But we were not the original intended.
But we're not.
audience.
Yeah, we're not the original. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, what Jonathan said. So make that point clear. So there's a lot of things that, and I think this is maybe why the Old Testament is written off a lot, because it's like, oh, it's old news.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't pertain to us anymore, which is just not true. There's a lot of truth behind it that we just don't grasp because we're not in the context to understand it. So diving into these aspects, such as like Sarah, for example, and sure, we're looking at it in the perspective of creatures. So is it a dragon? Is it not? I mean, it's an angelic being one way or another
Right.
for Isaiah 6.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, is that really the point of why we're talking about it? No, not really. It's just a minute little opinionated thing. Because the base of the story is who God is.
Yeah.
That's the true meaning behind everything. So you first have to grasp that to understand everything else around it.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, get off the soapbox a little bit. I talked about that. All right. Yeah, we should probably go into Isaiah 6 then. So I have pulled up here on my in my Bible, and this is the NIV. So, obviously, I really want to talk about all of Isaiah 6, but I'll focus in on verses 1 through 7 currently. So, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. That's verses 1 through 7.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that remind you of? Or does it remind you of anything?
We're talking about like the story in general, or
Well,
specific elements of it,
specific elements of it.
like the seraphim part.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, I can go straight to Jesus with that, but
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of what I was alluding to.
yeah,
The forgiveness of sins
yeah,
here.
yep,
Who can do, like, okay, who can do that?
right.
Angels shouldn't be able to forgive sins. Only God can forgive sins.
Yeah.
So is Isaiah talking about Jesus here? And if it's Jesus, why is he referenced as a seraphim?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is speculative.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you think about angels are typically the messengers of God too.
Yes.
So, you know, you think maybe
And there's this aspect of fire along with the coal on
Yeah.
the altar as well.
right, and you know, with the fact that there's multiple seraphim, you know, multiple there. You know, is Jesus one of them? I mean, personally, I would say no, but
Well, I agree.
yeah, you know,
It just reminds you of,
Yeah.
especially with the forgiveness of
yeah,
sins.
he's taking
aspect.
this thing from the altar. He's taking this forgiveness aspect from the altar directly from God and delivering that message of forgiveness.
And when we think of angels, it literally means messengers.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Hebrew, it means messengers.
Yeah.
So they're messengers of God. So them saying what they say in like verse 7, for example, you're forgiven, you have no more, like, your sins are forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
That's a message.
Yep.
They're not the ones actually doing it. Like, it seems like the coal is.
Mm-hmm.
Coal's another thing too that's interesting, because it's almost a motif of Jesus himself.
Yeah,
It's a
'cause-
coal. It's a burnt out ember.
yeah, burning coal, or it's almost a living fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's like you think of a blaze of glory and everything like that, but it's like you're touched with a coal,
Mm-hmm.
something that's already quote unquote put out, but it's not out.
Yep.
It's still living.
Yep.
Which is, again, that's where more of the Jesus comes in for me, is
Yeah.
the coal. You have the messenger,
Mm-hmm.
but you got the coal, and the coal's the one that cleansed the sin.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff. I always like the Old Testament, so I nerd out about that a little bit. Which is why I left it, because this is the one that it's a little bit different than the other instances of where you see seraph.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know that the others were using the exact same word in the Hebrew.
Yeah, that was new
in
to
the
me too.
in the fiery serpents.
I assume Seraphim is just,
Yeah, I assumed.
angelic being.
I assumed it was the other, and yet these are also different from cherubim
Mm.
because the root word is completely different. So it's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because initially when I thought, I'm like, oh yeah, cherubim, seraphim, they're like right next to each other, right?
Yeah, no.
No, they're not used in the same areas, which is interesting because you don't even see cherubim in the book of Isaiah.
Yeah, cherubim was more
Yeah.
books of Moses, right? Talking about the altar.
Yeah,
Mhm.
with cherubs and stuff like, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But Ezekiel is one that goes on cherubim for like how they look,
Okay.
just like Isaiah goes for seraphim on how they look.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fascinating stuff. And I wanted to bring up something that also is on that other site as well. You see it near the bottom. And I'm going to tie it into some of the stuff that I've personally seen as I've been to Egypt and different things like that. So we'll go to the good old other thing here. I'll move it off of this page so you can see it a little bit more. All right. And let's see, where is this? Okay. Skadoosh. All right. So, here's this. So this is kind of taking from what is on that other page that I showed you, that we showed you before for Seraphim. That's the actual Hebrew on the top there for Seraphim and Seraph. Seraphim being the plural of the noun, and Seraph being the, well, individual of the noun. So that's what they look like. They're Seraph in Hebrew. I know, real different. But it's the other two that they mention later, which is interesting, into what they may have looked like or what the people of that context may have understood them to be. Now, when we think of an angel, we think, oh, human face.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't necessarily the case, as we'll also see with cherubim. Also, not necessarily a human face. They just say face. They don't say human face. They don't say anything resembling that.
Mm-hmm.
Two they fly, two they cover their face, two they cover their feet.
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's different things and aspects to it, but I'll start with the Mesopotamian because I think this fits more in closely aligned to the Egyptian than it does the Mesopotamian, but I wanted to mention the Mesopotamian because they mention it on the site as well. So Sarapu, and I'm probably butchering it because I didn't really look up how to say these, which is an epithet or just a different term or a name for the god Nergal. And this is in Mesopotamian myth, or Babylonian at some point later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And Nergal, let's see where in my notes I have talked about this. Yeah. So Nergal was associated with war, plague, and the underworld. Which could be possible connection with the fiery or venomous aspect of the lexicon. Talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But more like the aggressive side of it. So more of like how you get the fiery serpent aspect. Also another thing that I found that was interesting to look up with Nergal, and this maybe could be possibly related to the different cultures intermingling and crossing information with the trade routes and everything. So obviously I don't really know, but I've made connections in my mind at least to it. Doesn't mean it's actually connected, but so Nurgle was often depicted with having a lion-headed mace, which, and I'll talk into this in more detail, is one of the forms of Ouija, which is an Egyptian god or goddess. Goddess, that's it. I put it down here and I just said god or goddess. Goddess. The Egyptian myth. And you'll see the lioness or lion used in different anthropomorphic forms of Egyptian gods and goddesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Ouija or Wadjet. It's Wadjet. I don't know why I said Ouija. So it's an interesting coincidence, maybe, or I mean, lions are used to represent power and different things like that as well, power, authority.
Mm-hmm.
So it could mean multiple things. But all right, and then we'll go to Seraph, which is Egyptian. Really, really similar to Seraph from Hebrew. Now, I think they have the same base word, but like in ancient Egyptian, it's like SFR is technically what it is, surf, or SRF. So, and it's transliterated. So, like the closest possible that we can think of, it would be Seraph. And what's interesting about Seraph here is, well, first and foremost, I was told when I was in Egypt that the images that you see on the right hand of the screen are Seraph. Though what I read is not what they were, but what Seraph were Egyptian guardian griffins.
Interesting.
So griffins. Huh. Because griffins were also in Egyptian myth.
Mm-hmm.
A griffin that's breathed fire. So a dragon. Got it. Because they had wings and everything. But another being that was alongside them often were these cobras.
Mm-hmm.
That you'll see, and often associated with Wadjet. Because they're both associated with the god Horus. And they go kind of hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll often see them depicted together, something like that. I'll focus on the snake side because serpent comes into play for the Hebrew. And to me, the seraph falls in line with the images that you see here for seraph. Griffin's its own thing. We'll get to griffins. And not Peter Griffin.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
A clarification there.
So that top image is a photo that I took in Cairo, in the Cairo Museum. I think they're moving it to a different museum site, but this was in the original Cairo Museum, which is on the top of a sarcophagus. And then that bottom one is, well, that particular one is on a mortuary temple. I can't even speak. Mortuary temple in Komombo. I probably should have taken notes of where that is, what it is, but I didn't because I'm dumb. And you'll see that with the wings. You can see the wings and then the cobras with the disc in the middle. So, some little interesting tidbits. So, Wadjet in Egyptian myth they're flying. Well, Wadjet is flying snakes, so they're flying snakes, and they're often associated with Ra, the center sun, which you see on the bottom image there. That disc in the center is Ra, the sun, sun god. Like one of the major primary gods of Egyptian myth. and Horus, with the eye of Horus, seen in the above image in between the wings.
Okay.
It's really hard to see. I apologize, but it kind of looks like almost an omega symbol,
Yeah. I was wondering what
but
that was.
not really.
Yeah.
But that's the eye of Horus. So, and another thing that I mentioned in, I think that I had initially in the cherubim thing, is wings. Like especially in Egypt, wings symbolize protection, power, and authority, guidance, and connection to the heavens. So another notable Egyptian deity that utilized wings was Isis, which we'll see in cherubim. In the image, at least, that I took for cherubim there. So with Ra and Horus, they're both protective deities and often associated with the highest level of divine. That being divine God and divine humanity. That being the Pharaoh with Horus. So Ra is like the quote-unquote ultimate god of Egypt. I'm very much summing that down in the most... Don't quote me on it. And Horus is the representative of Pharaoh, kind of the protector of Pharaoh and his lineage.
Okay.
And another interesting story that I heard when I was in Egypt on a study tour, was that there's a reason why Moses was not immediately killed by Pharaoh. Why? Because Moses' story closely aligns to that of Horus in Egyptian myth,
Interesting.
including the part with the basket in the Nile.
Huh.
That is incredibly interesting.
So
Yes.
look it up on your own time, the story of Horus, and look at the story of Moses. It's a really fascinating thing. I'm not going to go into that much detail. It blew my mind when I heard it in Egypt. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Well, also points to, the fascinating thing even further on that is just how God uses, again,
Again,
the
he's
thing of
using
that culture.
using this culture
Yeah.
to make you understand
Mhm.
more about him.
Right.
It's really, and people are like, oh, they're just taking from other cultures. Basically, other people claim that, oh, Christianity is just taking the amalgamation of all these different religions and just mashing it together into one God. No, it's God using those images in a way to say, I am something that's greater than.
Yep.
Something you see as Horus. No. That's just one of my servants doing my work.
Yeah. Which, of course, then they worship them and, get into the plagues and all that, but...
Which the plagues themselves are referencing other gods and
Yeah.
goddesses.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating. I love the Old Testament.
There's an episode in itself.
We'll get there. We'll
Yeah.
get there. Not anytime soon, but we'll get there. And something that kind of ties in a little bit, and again, this ties in back to Jesus a little bit with Horus and Ra. Well, obviously, and this is taking it way off kilter, so don't quote me on it again. It's an objective look at it, though I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1. Ra, God the Father. Horus, Jesus. Where you have the divine humanity and the divine, if you want to call it that. Ultimate divine. And Horus being like the protector of humanity, if you will. I don't know. It's something that I kind of thought of, and like, so Seraphim kind of falls into that because Seraphim is related to both and kind of serves both.
Yeah. Yeah, just, again, interesting how, God uses the things of that culture, and, of course, we end up twisting it. But,
Well, yeah, that's inevitable.
Right.
But obviously, that's just kind of a,
Yeah. Makes
when
sense.
I was thinking about it. Does it mean that? No,
No, yeah,
but it's just an objective
yeah, it makes you think about it and-
observation.
Right.
So, like, for me, especially with given the Exodus and what the Hebrews would know at that time, because the Exodus was mentioned over and over and over. Do not forget, do not
Mhm.
forget, do not forget, do not forget.
Yep.
It keeps getting brought up because it's important.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they would still kind of know the gods and the goddesses at that time, too,
Mhm.
about Egypt. So, in the time of Isaiah, for example, what do I think was the Seraphim in reference to and what it looked like? It would be that of Egypt. Could it be that of Mesopotamian with Nergal? Maybe. I just think it ties much more into the Egyptian side.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now let's get out of here. Oh, that's a problem.
Uh-oh.
All right. Oh, I guess I could have just. Yeah, whatever. Well, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. All right. We're back. Woohoo! Yeah, so that's a couple things to look. Another interesting tidbit. There's 6 wings on a seraphim.
Mm-hmm.
You only see 2 with Wadjet.
Yeah.
Typically 2 with a griffin.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd the other 4 come from? And I think some of that is because they're too holy. You can't see, like, the feet, the face. It's the holiness aspect of it.
Yeah, well, and even holiness and the angels, or seraphim or any angelic being, just looking upon God and not being able to look on Him.
Yeah.
That they're covering their own faces because of God's holiness.
Yeah. So I think that's part of where that comes in, where you don't see that in other myth.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's going to more the authority and everything of God with that as well. So let's go back to the question. What is seraphim?
Is it an angel or is it a snake?
Is it an angel or is it a dragon, a
Yeah.
fiery serpent? What is it?
Apparently depends on who you ask.
I wrote on here, long story short, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the real answer.
I would like it to mean that dragons exist. But I think it's more of an illustrative model
Mhm.
of what it is. Cherubim, on the other hand, I think is more of what certain things look like. And you can make the argument for and against that as well. Because, well, they were told, like in Exodus, they were told to make a cherub.
Yep.
What's a cherub? Well, they made it, so they clearly had some idea of what it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that based on Egyptian myth? Was it based on something they saw? What was it? Again, the same sort of thing applies. And it's something that we're not necessarily even meant to know. Because, I mean, if you even see an angel, let me know if you have.
People are typically terrified of them. So.
Yeah, you're typically on your face, regardless. I've had like a vision myself of things. I didn't see nothing. I just remember falling to my face after hearing like the heavenly host, which is again associated with this cherub, and seraphim or whatever you want to call it, with the host. But yeah, I remember falling to my face. I wasn't looking nowhere.
Yeah.
Except the dirt.
Just remembering what you are before a holy God.
Yeah, I am nothing but dirt. I am clay. From whence dirt I was, I now go. Yeah. I'm not going to go into the whole angelology and demonology because, to be honest, it doesn't matter. At the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. People can claim it matters. And it's a whole topic in and of itself. I'm not going to go into that can of worms. with the order of angels and different things, like Seraphim being like the top, cherubim the next, different things like that, archangels and angels. Yeah, we're not going to go there. But anyway, that's a little bit of a brief conversation on Seraphim.
Yeah.
Do any of you have anything to add?
I still don't know what they are.
Yeah.
This
Congrats.
conversation didn't help me come to a conclusion.
Is it a griffin? Is it a snake? Is it a dragon? They all have wings. Does it breathe fire? Is it poison? Is it a holy fire? Or is somebody just cuckoo? No, I don't think anybody's cuckoo. Especially not for Cocoa Puffs. But anyway,
It's interesting to think about.
it was a really interesting thing, and this is where the word studies can come in really handy.
Yeah.
And I bounce back and forth with things that I've experienced or seen, and you'll see some of those pictures. Like I have another picture for cherubim as well. Again with Egypt, like the trip to Egypt that I had, highly informative, because I'm like, I would never have guessed some of the things that you see in Egypt, and you can see the ties to the Exodus and everything. And I'm like, oh, that's like a 1-for-1 exact same thing that they made in the Exodus.
Yeah.
It's completely Egyptian. Why? Because it's the context they understood.
Mm-hmm.
So God's telling them, do this because it's what you understand. It's what you know. I'm going to do it a little bit differently, but this is what you know. So stick to what you know, and I will allow you to gain more understanding as you walk and wander in the midst of the wilderness. You got to break off what you once knew to know more of what I want you to know of who I am, which is the interesting part. And a lot of people think of the wilderness as a negative experience. It's actually a positive experience because they get to know God more and more and more and more.
Yeah, it was the whole dependence on him.
It's the breaking off of what you once knew to put on that new self, if you will. So, anyway, that's Seraphim. Join us next time for Cherubim and all the other eames that we will eventually and inevitably go towards. So, thank you all for watching. Like if you liked the video. Share with your friends. Toodles.